fucking lion.
Oh my god, it's so racist.
Oh. Alright, I'm not going to do any more of that because it's probably blown out your speakers that you're listening to. But that was an approximation of is it Lebo M singing at the start of The Lion King?
I don't know.
Whoever it is. Because we're doing The Lion King. Oh shit. It is like the definitive childhood nostalgic film of people about my age. People who are a bit too old for it to be Star Wars.
A bit?
It's probably The Lion King. Yeah.
This was made 17 years after Star Wars. That's quite a big jump.
Yeah. Star Wars. Yeah, but
what about the Goonies?
How many years after the third Star Wars? All right, the Goonies then. Right. Anyone who was about 4 or 5 or 6 in 1994. There you go, Lion King.
Well, I was 10. What about me?
Well, you're gonna shit all over it, no doubt. I mean, that's obvious. You're gonna go Lion King, animation, shite, story, simplistic, emotions for a fucking lion. Stamp on their heads. That's what I say. So,
I mean, actually, I am curious to know, like, how old Alan was when the film was released, because you and me are the same age, Sol, so we probably have a very similar relationship with the film. But I'm curious to know what it was like for Alan, who we know grew up in the 80s, where the only animated films were like Fievel Goes West and The Black Cauldron.
Yeah,
sorry, I don't know why that's funny.
And some god awful. Shitty stop-start animated Rudolph thing that they wheel out at Christmas.
When was the Snowman done? Was that your generation?
That was about 83 or something like that. It's a bit earlier.
Oh my god, it actually is! Wow.
But yeah, that was an ever-present thing every year.
Yeah. So I'm Sol, in case you didn't already know that, and I'm talking to Alan and Calvin.
Hi, I'm Calvin. So, Alan, to my question, what was it like being more sentient than we were at the time of this film's release?
Well, it was a very special time. Jurassic Park was still in the memory, and Hollywood had changed again. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't remember it. I didn't see it at the cinema. We just didn't. We didn't go to the cinema when I was a kid. It wasn't a thing. We didn't really have films in the house. We never had any music in the house. It was a strange place.
It's probably worth mentioning that you don't even remember films that you watched last week as well. So
exactly, yeah.
Not remembering your viewing experience isn't a huge surprise.
Do you know what, though? I have a vague memory. I think I saw The Lion King when they did like a digital re-release of it.
Oh, yeah.
Which would have been, let me think,
it would
have been about 2006, 7 maybe?
Was it the... So it was when they just, like you say, they made it all digital and went, oh, look how much we prettied it up. Because they also did a 3D re-release a few years on.
No, it wasn't 3D. It was just a digital thing. But I remember thinking, I'll see that at the big screen while I got the chance. But I'd definitely seen it before at that point. I'd seen it at some time, but it wasn't when it was originally out.
I remember seeing it in the cinema. I watched it in Mexico.
What?
In Spanish.
Okay, what's Spanish for Lion King? Regalo Leo. Something like that.
I mean, I speak better German than Spanish. Let's see, what do you think it is in German? It'll be der Katze Grande. that's Spanish. Italian. That's close enough. They'll know what you mean. If you say that and point at a picture.
I think I first saw the film on video rather than at the cinema. I certainly don't have memories of seeing it at the cinema.
Did you have a full Disney collection as a child?
We had most of them, yeah, I remember. We even had Song of the South.
Your coveted, racist video.
It's a great film.
No, it's not.
Well, I haven't seen it in 20 years, actually.
It's the kind of film you would hate if you watched it now, I think. It's very slow and dull. There's some really lovely sequences in there, but they're few and far between. It's largely just very, very dull.
So, just as a general thing, was The Lion King Disney's last film before Toy Story changed the world of animation? Or big release, anyway.
Kind of.
Major release.
Yeah, I think Pocahontas was after Toy Story. Same year.
Pocahontas was 95, I think.
Maybe that's same time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Pocahontas is significant because my understanding is Disney, I think they still do this, but certainly at the time, Disney kind of had 2 films in development or production at any given moment. My understanding is that basically when people were crewing up The Lion King and Pocahontas was seen as Disney's next big prestige picture, the big follow-up to Aladdin that was going to be, oh my god, amazing, look what Disney have done again, Best Picture nominee again. And The Lion King was the sort of weird little experimental film that no one really gave a shit about, and a lot of the lesser talent ended up sort of being pushed onto instead of Pocahontas. And
you're absolutely right. They talk about it on the DVD, and they really only got, like, I think Andreas Deja was one of the A-list animators, and he came on this because he animated Scar. Yeah. And he previously did, like, Gaston and Jafar, and he just, his favourite Disney film was the original Jungle Book, so he just wanted to animate, animals, creatures. But yeah, Pocahontas was seen as, like, especially after Beauty and the Beast got Oscar nominated, and I think people at the studio were thinking, like, oh wow, we could actually do this, because if, like, right after Pocahontas, they did The Hunchback of Notre Dame, another very sort of worthy, awards-baiting animated film, and ironically, The Lion King outshines both of those.
Well, I was going to ask about this because I think, in my kind of cultural knowledge of this whole thing, it feels like even people who are Disney fans are kind of like, yeah, it's because I liked him when I was a kid, and now there's a whole nostalgia thing. Whereas I feel like The Lion King is one of those that you're allowed to like, and there's like no sense of guilt about it. It's like, oh, well, no, that's legit kind of thing. Am I right in that, or is it just my...
I think it's become very much that.
Is it because it's just a bit less Disney-y in, like, it's not just a young princess and like just the same old nonsense?
I think probably, yeah.
Is this the first major film that they've done that's not based on, like, fairy tales or some kind of folk thing, or, some pre-existing well-known story?
No. There's loads of.
But in terms of, like, a big thing.
Well, yeah, but what's Bambi based on? Is that based on something?
I'm pretty sure that's based on a book, but it's not like some old...
I mean, but The Lion King's loosely based on Hamlet, if you want to get...
Extremely loosely.
Well, no more loosely than Hercules was loosely based on Hercules. I mean...
They have at least got a character called Hercules, though. That's something, isn't it?
All right, well, Frozen being based on the snow, like the Ice Princess, whatever it's called, they're always very, malleable in terms of how they approach these.
But I guess my question is, did this give the writers here, and I know there's like 29 credited writers or whatever it is, but did this give the creative people a bit more freedom to kind of be looser with the story and, like, go in the direction they wanted to go, rather than, oh, well, we've got the princess and the prince and they've got to get together at the end and all that kind of thing? And I know they don't exactly break the mold here, but do you think that might be part of it?
Probably. I think, I mean...
I don't know if they've ever been beholden to a particular story before. I mean, Beauty and the Beast, they certainly took a lot of liberties, and Little Mermaid, really, they did. So I don't think that's ever... I don't think freedom of storytelling has ever been a problem. Yeah.
The perception of some films online has just completely changed over the last 15 years as our generation's grown up. And I remember when I joined IMDb, I think The Lion King was maybe 7.8, something like that. Very, very respectable score. But if you look at it now, it's 8.5, number 44 on the top 250 greatest films of all time. I believe it's Disney's highest rated film on there by a significant margin. So it really has become cemented as Disney's jewel in the crown. And I think that is just people our age growing up who...
then go on IMDb.
Well, yeah, but, now we're adults, and so our opinion isn't just poo-pooed.
Well, that's what I mean. I think Lion King is one of those that's stood the test of time more than the others. And it is kind of somehow culturally as a general thing more respected than, say, Little Mermaid, which is a
well, yeah.
it's a kid's
Beauty
film,
and the
Little
Beast has
Mermaid.
done the same. I should add, Beauty and the Beast, has rocketed up to like an 8 point something, and I think it's in IMDb's top 250 just as well at the minute. So it's definitely got to be something to do with attitudes towards animation and Disney films of the 90s, and I think that comes with just the people who grew up watching it growing up. And so but I do think I don't want to suggest for a second that this film's coasting by on nostalgia, because I think this is legitimately some of Disney's finest work ever, personally. I mean, I think this is probably my favourite Disney film.
Well, should we go through the film or talk about certain aspects of it? First of all, I'd like to talk about the opening, actually, with the whole circle of life, the whole animated sequence leading up to Simba's christening. And then that amazing like smash cut to the title, The Lion King. And I remember when we watched this Soul at university, you claimed that, I think you made the claim that this was the best sort of, pre-title sequence, like lead into the title, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, but you hadn't seen
history,
Octopussy at that point, so.
You know what it is? It's that smash to the it's the boom.
Oh, it's brilliant.
When the Lion King appears at the end. It's just like, it's like a mic drop.
That whole song is just, and I think like the music is, of course, I mean, Hans Zimmer composed the score, and then it's Elton John and Tim Rice on the songs.
Yes.
And that will infinitely help its appeal to a broader market, I guess.
I mean, Elton John's music I'm a big fan of, but then having his music rearranged by Hans Zimmer and Lebo M, who came in and made all these kind of African sounds and arrangements as well, it just opens up a whole new... I think the film version of Circle of Life is infinitely superior to the Elton John version.
God, yes.
And the film version, it's got all these unique... Well, not unique, but you don't hear much African music infused Western music, It's quite I don't think there's very much of this sort of stuff in the public consciousness before The Lion King, and everything that's come since has kind of been riffing on The Lion King in one way or another. I suppose the soundtrack Hans Zimmer did for Rain Man was a kind of blueprint for the music he wrote for The Lion King, weirdly enough. He was very inspired by African music when he wrote that soundtrack to try and make Rain Man feel like a very alienated character and like he was from another culture and everything. So you can kind of see, the development there. But, look at the way they approach the music in Black Panther or Book of Mormon's an obvious comparison, I suppose, because they directly parody The Lion King at a few points. But it all kind of points back to The Lion King, I think, whenever people think of African music now. But that opening sequence is just a perfect encapsulation of all of it. It's a wonderful song, beautifully performed, unique. The animation is gorgeous. The choice of shots and just everything happening as well. It sets up Africa, and they never specify where this film's set, do they? But I think it's generally regarded as Kenya. Is that right?
I think that's it, yeah.
Well, that's it. I was just thinking that when we were saying like African music and stuff, that is an extraordinarily vague thing to say when it comes down to it. Africa's a pretty huge place.
You could talk about European music and Asian music.
No, don't get me wrong. When you say African music, I know what comes to my mind. But that is as a European who's grown up with films like The Lion King and those ominous drums in Jumanji. And, we're culturally biased by these things. But, I just... But yeah, I think it is kind of vague, but that doesn't... It is still an influence that we don't get very often in Western culture, I suppose. So,
yeah, and that's it. I'm always very aware that The Lion King is probably a real white person's bastardized view of African culture. I have no real bearing on the authentic stuff. But at the same time, there were real, as far as I know, Le Bohème is of some sort of African heritage or background. So, I don't think it's completely insincere or cultural appropriation or anything like that. I think
it doesn't feel insincere, no.
Yeah, and it's fucking great. I love it. Hans Zimmer, I believe, was Oscar nominated for his score that he wrote for this film. I don't think he won. He's never won, has he? Hans Zimmer, or has he?
Really?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Maybe he has. Oh no, he did. He won for this. I take it back. He won for this score. Good on him. I mean, the music in this film, ignoring the songs, just the soundtrack, the score is phenomenal.
I wasn't that
so
fussed by the kind of incidental music. It's kind of the music that was just going on behind the scene. I wasn't. I don't know. It's something. It was too prominent or something. Perhaps. Was that an example?
No, that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's when he's like giving him the whole circle of life speech.
There's some really iconic musical themes in this film. I to the point that I think you could pluck out a good 3 or 4 of them, just like the one I just did there, and play them to, just general people on the street of a certain age, and they'd go, "Oh, it's the Lion King." And it's to the point that I can guarantee you they will just lift those themes for the upcoming remake, point blank.
Oh yeah, I think. Well, actually, let's not get into that yet. I've got a lot to say about that. But yeah, so the film is kind of two halves. Do you agree? Like, there's the first half, which is about the young Simba, and then there's a point in the middle where we skip forward a big period of time, and it's adult Simba. They're quite distinctive, I think.
So shall we start with the first one?
Yes, why not? So
yeah, you got Simba is presented to the plains, all that thing. Okay, this is a general moan, which it's a vague one, and I don't want to get too into it, but this whole kind of monarchy thing, I'm not keen on that. And all the other animals are like deferential to the lions because they're so amazing.
Because if they're not, they'll get their fucking heads ripped off.
But they're going to do that anyway.
Yeah, but there's
they're only going to eat what they need to eat.
I like that, Mufasa has that little moment with little Simba, and he's like, "Yeah, don't we eat them?" And he's like, "Yeah, but that's all just circle of life. That's okay."
I like that they address that, because normally in these kinds of cartoons, you never even go near that. Yeah. But they're just we eat them, and then their bodies, become the ground, and
because
it just keeps
going
going.
True. That is the circle of life. It's fine.
It's great.
All those millennial vegans are going to go nuts, though, when the new one comes out and he gives that speech. My God.
But I just don't like that they all come to have a look at the new, the fucking royal baby. That's what it reminded me of when fucking William's popping out another baby and everyone cares. Just don't understand it at all. What?
The song, the lyrics at the start of the song, the African lyrics in the background of Circle of Life. Do you know what they mean? Roughly translated. Roughly translated, it means...
It's a baby, it's a royal
There's
baby.
a lion, come and see this lion. There's a lion, come and see the lion. I think more accurately it's like, oh father, come and see this lion, or something. But it's just basically them going, yeah, come and see a lion. Oh my God, can you believe it? There's a lion.
It's like when they have a lion or panda or something born in a zoo, and everyone's like, oh fucking hell, look, it's a baby panda, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with a panda, it's like, shit.
They actually managed
That's really hard to make happen. Whereas with a lion, it's like, oh, God, there's another one, is there? The animation itself, should we touch on that, seeing as that's such a big part of this opening sequence and why it works so well? It's just beautifully drawn and animated.
Things get a bit more stylized and cartoony later on, but here it's very, except for the lions, I guess, it's all quite sort of realistic.
Yeah, it's weird. That's what I wanted to get into, really, because we covered Aladdin recently, and we spoke about how gorgeously animated it was, but how it was such a an animator's film in that it's so expressive and fluid and stylistic. And watching The Lion King again, it's not really, for the most part. There's a few obvious examples where they have some fun with the medium and get into it, but it largely adopts quite a, like you say, more of a realistic aesthetic than you typically get in what you think of from Disney films. And I don't know, it's kind of an interesting choice, but it is, it's still breathtakingly high quality animation, and there's so much character and acting involved with each of the characters, and Disney doing their thing where they kind of hand each character off to a specific animator to work on. So yeah,
it does flip-flop. Like, there are scenes where, I mean, I guess most notably the I Just Can't Wait to Be King sequence is very cartoony and anthropomorphized animals and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then, like, with the wildebeest stampedes, I guess it's to separate the characters and their species from the rest of the animals, because if we understood that the wildebeest were, creatures that could be reasoned with on a human level, surely Simba would be like, hey guys, let's stop here and not stampede me and my dad to death.
Yeah, imagine if it was a stampede of warthogs and they were all just Pumbaa going, oh god, oh no! Maybe a very different film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so but I just find that a curious distinction. I guess it needed to be made, that there is, like, the more human-y animals, and then there is animals beyond that, which behave like wild animals would.
The stampede sequence was a big milestone in animation history as well. It was, I think, the first time they'd used, or at least used at this scale, a kind of animation tool that allowed them to kind of automate mass replicated animation. My understanding is each of those wildebeest, they're CGI animated, aren't they? The wildebeest, I think, is that?
Yes.
And each one was kind of the result of a computer program that just sort of decided where they were all going to be placed and made sure they couldn't run into each other. And there were all these bits of coding keeping it working, making it look like an actual stampede. But I believe it was quite a groundbreaking bit of animation and just on a technical level when they made it, and they certainly spoke about it, saying there's no way they could have put something together on that scale using their old techniques. So yeah, and it works well. It's not like you look at it and go, ugh, fucking shitty CGI. What's that about?
I mean, there was Aladdin, of course, which did the thing with the, with the cave.
Yeah,
and
that's
the
it. When you say
environment
cave,
was
like,
CG, and that just kind of really stands out.
Yeah.
And then even in Beauty and the Beast, when they're going around that ballroom and it's CG, and it's like, oh, okay, I think this fits in almost seamlessly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take you out, which is great.
Yeah, completely. Shall we talk about the cast?
Oh, yeah, let's actually.
This film has a very eclectic cast, a very, very impressive cast, actually. I think it's so many people firing on all cylinders and, doing some of their best work. I mean, maybe this is me being very biased towards the nostalgic film that I grew up with and introduced me to many of these people, but I would argue this is the highlight of many of these people's careers.
You don't think the Stepford Wives for Matthew Broderick?
I mean, I certainly I see Nathan Lane. I think of Timon to this day. Like he will forever be Timon to me. Yeah, and I don't think I'm alone in that. And I think the same is true of James Earl Jones and Mufasa. For anyone who doesn't immediately see him as Darth Vader, I'd say this is very much his second most well-known role, if not that. But beyond
it's funny
that,
how we can more or less do the same voice and have completely different he
has
reactions.
He has such a very specific cadence. He talks very slowly and then he speeds up very much at the end of the sentence.
Everything you see exists together in a delicate balance. As king, you need to understand that balance and respect all the creatures. From the crawling ant to the leaping antelope.
He's got a very odd way of talking, man. It never really struck me till recently. But I think he does that as Darth Vader as well, doesn't he? He's do not disappoint me. Jeremy Irons, even.
Oh yes, Jeremy Irons. Who's
I was going to say he is Scar to me. When I watch him in a film, I think, oh, it's Scar, but that's what he looks like, is it?
Life's not fair, is it? You see, I shall never be king. And you shall never see the light of another day. And you...
I always found it really odd that they got a singing voice in for Matthew Broderick to say that he's literally a Broadway star. But then I rewatched The Lion King 2 and he has a song where it's just him performing and I was like, oh yeah, fair enough. It's not quite
and
the same.
They did the same with Young Simba as well, because Young Simba is voiced by Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who was
Home Improvement,
one of the breakout stars of Home Improvement. Yeah, and then they had a singing voice for him as well.
Yeah, interesting. And then they have a different singing voice for that hideous sequence they added to the anniversary DVD or whatever it was.
Oh God,
that I forgot to turn off when I was rewatching it because you got to go through about
the
5
morning report.
Yeah.
Good morning, sire.
Good morning, Zazu.
Checking in with the morning report.
Fire away.
Chimps are going ape, giraffes remain above it all. Elephants remember, though 'tis what I can't recall. Crocodiles are snapping up fresh offers from the banks. Showed interest in my nest egg, but I quickly said no thanks. We haven't paid the hornbills and the vultures have a hunch. Not everyone invited will be coming back from lunch.
Did that jump out at you, Alan, as not being part of the film?
No, I don't think so.
Because the animation looks different, and Rowan Atkinson isn't voicing Zazu anymore. It's Jeff Bennett.
Yeah, it's an awful shit attempt at Rowan Atkinson. Who talks like sire? And then Simba's suddenly a completely different kid voicing him that doesn't sound anything like him. And the song's just shit. It's like, this was clearly the song that Elton John and Tim Rice left on the cutting room floor and didn't figure out. Just like if they went back into Aladdin and just crowbarred "Proud of Your Boy" in, which they're obsessed with that song, but it's shit.
They for the morning report, I think if you bought the DVD of The Lion King for a certain time, that was just included in the film. Fortunately, it's included on the Blu-ray as a supplement. It's not in the film anymore, thank goodness.
Yeah, I've got the DVD, and you can watch the original cut of the film, but it's very, very difficult to figure out how to get it to play that version of the film. You've got to go through about 10 different menu screens. It's really awkward. Matthew Broderick's fine as Simba. He's got a real sort of generic white guy voice. That's fine. He's got a real kind of... You're warm to a guy who just kind of talks like this. It's fine. It works, gets the job done. Rowan Atkinson as Zazu, great. I'm surprised he hasn't had more animated voice work, to be honest, than he has.
He doesn't even come back for the sequels and stuff, does he?
He's the only person who's blatantly missing in those other films. I mean, James Earl Jones isn't in them either, but he is long dead, and it makes sense that he's not in them.
James Earl Jones is alive?
Mufasa.
Oh, the character, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I just mean, Zazu is recast with someone else. I think he's the only character they recast instead of just leaving them out of the film altogether.
Yeah, and, obviously Rowan Atkinson's too busy for doing his Johnny English films.
Well, he was developing Johnny English at this point, wasn't he?
Was that why was he in Hollywood trying to negotiate a deal?
He's too busy filming a Barclays pen advert or whatever it was.
So here's someone who I don't know from anything else apart from this, but very iconic. Ernie Sabella as Pumbaa.
Yeah, I was going to say,
That's someone who actually, this is the highlight of his career, as opposed to everyone else you've said it about.
Hey, Timon, it's just a little lion. Look at him. He's so cute and all alone. Can we keep him?
It's fair. And, he's a great Pumbaa. you could probably put a lot of people in that role and it'd work. But he still brings a lot of warmth to it. He still does a very good job. I mean, Nathan Lane, what a voice. Nathan Lane. That's just...
Oh, he's brilliant.
That's like that is a get. That is... Wow. You found a voice there. That is perfect.
What do you want me to do? Dress and drag and do the hula? Wow! If you're hungry for a hunk of fat and juicy meat, eat my buddy Bumper here because he has a treat. Coming down a dine on a Stacy swine. All you have to do is get in line. Ah, you aching?
Yup.
For some bacon.
Yup.
He's a big pig.
Yup.
You can be a big pig too. Hey!
Well, just a thing about the film in general, which is relevant to the actors and the character they bring to it. Part of my problem in the whole film was that I loved Scar. I just loved Scar so much, and I thought
great.
Simba was a bit of a dick. So I was like, I wasn't really on board with the whole Simba the hero thing. It wasn't.
But Simba is kind of a dick till he comes back at the end. You sort of, And Scar is a cock as well, let's be honest. I mean, you must at least objectively not agree with Scar's
I liked him all the way
decision
through.
to kill in cold blood and lie to a child.
That is in the greatest tradition of royal family, though. I mean...
Oh, well, that makes it all right, then.
Yes. That's what you do. You got to kill your way... I mean, let's face it, if you're a lion, that's what you're going to do. Male lions, they fight each other, and then the strongest one wins, and they take over the pride.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like that he says, I got all the brains, you got all the brawn, and then he uses his brains to fuck over the brawn, and yeah, I like that. I think he's a well-realised villain insofar as, he's got a bit more than just 2 dimensions about him. I mean, he's still doing nasty things. He's still being a bad person. Yeah,
but you got to love a bastard, don't you?
He has the best song in the film, for sure. For me, anyway. Be Prepared is awesome.
And
I love that whole
going
sequence.
going back to the music for a second. I mean, Elton John, it makes sense. Circle of Life, makes sense. Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Yeah, that sounds like an Elton John song. But then Be Prepared, and I Just Can't Wait to Be King, and Hakuna Matata even. It's like, where did that come from? That doesn't sound like Elton John. And I think that is the mixture of Elton John and these other collaborators he's working with. But God, the songs in this film are amazing. I mean, God, this basically launched Elton John's Broadway career, didn't it? I mean,
I thought you were going to say career then. Big deal beforehand.
This was the highlight of his career, I think you'll find.
Well, I think it arguably was. And I'm a fan. Name a better Elton John album than this. Yellow Brick Road? Nah. I mean, it's good, but it's no Lion King.
I'm surprised that there is only 5 songs in the whole thing, isn't there? I always remember I always thought there were more, but there is. There's Circle of Life, Can't Wait to Be King, Be Prepared, Hakuna Matata, and Can You Feel the Love Tonight?
Yeah.
That Can't Wait to Be King, that was the one that felt like a Disney song, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas likes of Hakuna Matata...
Hakuna Matata does as well.
But that has a totally different feel somehow, and it might just be the lyrics, and there's the central figure is this word that none of us know, you know what I mean? It's like it gives it a strange feeling. It's more abstract somehow.
Well, at this point, the usual Howard Ashman and Alan Menken partnership. Howard Ashman had died, and he was responsible for a lot of the lyrics for The Little Mermaid and half of the songs for Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast. And he very much likes to do kind of like, Broadway sort of numbers with a lot of wordplay and all that kind of stuff. Whereas I think Tim Rice
internal
is maybe
rhyming.
Right,
as a specimen, yes, I'm intimidating, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I think, Tim Rice probably has a more, I don't want to say mature sensibility, but you know what I mean. Less kiddie.
Oh, God, I love the music in this film. And Be Prepared is just such an... That's another sequence where they really let the animators have some fun and throw some new shades of colour into the mix. And you get that arguably a bit over the top goose stepping hyena sequence where a lot of digital effects at play there as well, actually, but less subtle. But I love it. And I mean, that is Scar just again, some of the acting there. When he does his, of course, quid pro quo, you're expected, and he like runs his finger across his neck. It's just, it's so good.
Of course, quid pro quo, you're expected to take certain duties on board. The future is littered with prizes, and though I remain at the sea, the point that I must emphasize is, you won't get a sniff without me! So prepare for the cool of the...
I definitely want to talk about Mufasa dying at some point, unless there's anything else in the first like chunk of the film that you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay, so Mufasa, Simba's dad, of course, dies, and it's one of the most famous deaths in all of movies. I cry every single time. It's the music, it's the acting, it's just all so perfect. It goes kind of abstract, like when Mufasa's falling down into the stampeding wildebeest below. It's just a beautiful sequence, and then Simba coming up afterwards and nuzzling his dad and asking him to get up and stuff. It's, oh my god, it's so heartbreaking. Alan,
You know what,
how do you feel about it?
Do you know why? Because I did make this note that I think part of my problem with this film is that it left me emotionally cold somehow, and I think it's because I didn't care about Simba at any point. But
even when he was an innocent child who hadn't done
I just didn't give a toss about him.
But he's a cat. You like cats,
exactly. It's
meant to.
But that scene you're just talking about, while you're talking about the emotional response that I had was like, "Yeah, go on, Scar. You've long live the king, victorious moment."
But I think you're a sociopath. that's fine. But you're just reading things very differently to most people.
But genuinely, that is what I took from that scene, and then I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And I think that's why I just didn't. Not to say I didn't like the film. We'll get onto that, but I didn't like get me. Do you know what I mean? It didn't grab me, and I didn't get emotionally connected to it, and I think I just missed that somehow.
I think I'm with Calvin. I think it's the way the music swells, the animation on Simba, everything about how that scene is put together is just perfect. I've never found the scene in Bambi where his mum dies to be remotely affecting. It quite annoys me, to be honest, because his mum gets shot and he doesn't even give a shit. He just comes out and goes, "Mum, where are you?" Whatever. And then it goes like 10 years later and he's dealt with it. So you don't see any of the fallout. Whereas this film takes a bit of time to really revel in this, like, the sorrow and just let it sink in and make you confront it properly. And it's heartbreaking. And I do think I think it came from making Bambi and similar scenes in their films and just sort of thinking, well, what worked about this? What didn't work about this? And I basically think they perfected it here. I think this is peak that. And yeah, it's emotionally manipulative. It's a cute little cat crying. Like, of course, that's working on an extra level.
I don't think it's manipulative. It feels, because we've had the whole setup, it's totally justified in terms of the story. It doesn't feel like they're trying to get you with a cheap hit of emotion. It's totally justified.
Yeah, I just mean, if it was a human, I wouldn't care.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That is another thing that I love about that sequence, actually, because you have this whole stampede sequence, which is very exciting. Then you have the emotional trauma of having Mufasa die, and then Scar sets his hyenas on Simba, and then there's another action sequence as he's trying to get away. It's like you don't really have that. You catch your breath until he's out in the desert, which is great. I think it's quite a exhilarating set of scenes.
Okay, so here's another reason why I think Scar gets fucked over in this film, right? Because, first of all, how come the hyenas are cut out of the circle of life and aren't respected and are basically told to piss off and die?
I agree, yeah.
But so Scar's just trying to, help them out.
No, well, can I say something why I don't think Scar was fucked over? Because when Scar takes over, the whole fucking country goes to shit.
Exactly. That's exactly why he was fucked
So he's
over.
a bad leader. He doesn't deserve
what
the throne.
king, what leader can make a drought go away? It's not that they've
No, but
placed
he's
his turn
bad
to
at
shit because
resource
he's ruling
management.
it badly. There's a drought.
is.
Yeah,
There's
It
no
is
rain.
completely that he's shit at ruling and managing it. He's letting. There's no resource management. He's letting people hunt and eat the wrong things, and
It's because he's let
not-
all the scummy working class hyenas get their fair share. Because he's
he's letting them have more than their fair
lion
share,
of the
and
people.
That's the problem. He's not
And-
rationing out.
Your middle class bourgeois lions aren't happy about it. This film is an anti-communist message. That's anti-socialism.
Quite right.
It is from Disney. Disney, who currently are in the process of buying up
The world.
every company ever made.
But this is it, I don't think Scar can, make the rains come any sooner. He's getting fucked over. It's not his fault. The lionesses are refusing to hunt just because they don't like him.
No, because he's a
Not
bad
good.
leader, and he hasn't.
Yeah, he's
instilled
not good at man
any-
management. He's not good at getting the best out of his team.
Yeah, because
Fair
he's
enough.
rude, and he's rude, and he doesn't value and appreciate them.
It's because he knows
Look how he
he's better
treated Zazu.
than- Yeah, but fair enough for that. And he's an annoying little prick.
He's a bad ruler.
Yeah, well.
If he'd taken over and it had thrived under his rule, yeah, fair enough. We'd talk. Simba wouldn't have had to come back, would he? Nala would never have been sent off as far afield to stumble into him, and it wouldn't have been a problem.
Wouldn't that be great if, Simba comes back, a few years later, just to sort of, he feels like, oh, maybe the dust has settled, I can go back. And everyone's just, living in this utopia. Everyone loves Scar. And he's just like, oh, shit. And they're like, Mufasa who? What? That'd be great.
But instead, he goes to live with Timon and Pumbaa.
Yeah.
Now,
Who-
as a kid, I was fucking obsessed with Timon. He was my favourite thing.
The most annoying
Oh.
character in the film.
I liked Zazu the best. He was the one I was...
Zazu was my second favourite.
I could have
Yeah.
guessed that.
I love Timon and Pumbaa. I love their cartoon series. I had a VHS dining out with Timon and Pumbaa or something like that.
What was that?
It was a collection of 3 or 4 episodes of their cartoon that had a vague theme of food.
All right.
I don't think Nathan Lane reprised the role for the TV show. I think it was
Oh, really?
Sound Alike.
No. Yeah.
But as a kid, I couldn't tell the difference. You give me a guy going, what a mook, and I was cracking up. I loved it.
They had a music video of The Lion Sleeps Tonight as well, didn't they? I remember that game.
Oh, that was on the end of a different one. Yeah, my video had
Oh.
mine had yummy yummy yummy. I've got love in my tummy at the end, but they changed the words to I've got bugs in my tummy. Yummy yummy yummy. I got bugs in my tummy, and I feel like munching you.
Yummy, 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 I got bugs in my tummy and I feel like munching you.
Bugs are such a sweet thing, good enough to eat. Think that's just what I'm gonna do.
Ooh, I love to hold you.
Oh God, I Jesus Christ, I haven't thought about this in years. It's ingrained in my head.
Oh, God.
I was going to describe them as the breakout characters of the thing, but I don't actually think they are. I think
they
the
were.
whole film is breakout characters, really.
I think they were back in 1994 through to about 5, 6, 7. I feel like the dust has settled. People don't really care anymore, but I do think they were the breakout characters. I mean, God,
Yeah, I
the
think
Lion
they-
King 3 was positioned around them. I think that's testament to it.
Well, yeah, the fact they've had the TV series based around them. If you're gonna make a fun kids series, it's gonna be those characters, isn't it?
They have since done a TV cartoon sequel to The Lion King, which is about Simba and his kids and stuff, I think, as well. But yeah,
The Lion Guard, yes. Is it Simba's kid or is it Simba's daughter's kid? They keep the continuity with the second
interesting.
one, actually. Yeah, so Simba's daughter from that is in it. Yeah, and it's about a young lion cub who patrols the savannah with a couple of his mates. There's a leopard and a hippo and a bird and a beaver sort of thing. Oh no, honey badger. It's a honey badger. That's what it is. Yeah. And they have, adventures around the jungle.
Just while you're on Timon and Pumbaa, just quickly, there's a scene near the end where Pumbaa sort of defiantly goes, "They call me Mr. Pig."
That was the worst reading of that line.
It's a reference to In the Heat of the Night.
Yeah.
Quite a famous
Mr.
line,
Tibbs.
but I mean, that was made in 1967. I just don't know why it's here. I don't know why it's in a kids' film. They're not going to get it. Doesn't really make any sense in context. Who put that in? Whose little personal
weird,
favour was that?
I assume it was a bigger deal in '94 somehow, but I have no idea.
But it wasn't a timely
That's the line
reference.
that my dad really picked up on. Like, my dad would always shout that when he was, like, chasing me around the house when I was a kid.
Wait a minute. Can we just delve into that story a little deeper? Your dad chased you around the house saying, "They call me Mr. Pig."
I can't remember. Exactly what the context was, but I remember him saying it.
I think this is a therapy session still to come.
Are they a couple?
Timon and Pumbaa?
Yes.
Well, I've never considered that.
Well, this is it. Like, but they refer to it as like, oh, Simba gets adopted by this same-sex couple. I mean, I guess that might be a more modern reading on it. Like, I suppose they are just buddies.
I don't think it's intended as
I mean,
that,
you
no.
know, Timon's willing to give up his life for the sake of his friend.
I feel like there was a girl Timon that Timon used to pursue in the cartoon occasionally, but I'm trying to remember if I imagined it or not.
That sounds believable. But Timon's, I mean, he does do it in this a little bit, but Timon does strike you as someone who would be in drag a lot, like in a kind of old-timey Bugs Bunny style. But in the third film, Calvin, as I don't know if you've seen, the one that focuses on Timon and Pumbaa's story, it's basically how they met and all that sort of thing. And it's much more focused on friendship. There's never any kind of romantic inclination to it, particularly. And,
well, I know they're not going to ever, like, come out and say it, like...
Yeah, but it's not even implied or anything. It's
not even hinted at in the... Yeah.
But also, it always, in that film anyway, it feels like Timon takes on the parental role. And Pumbaa's just sort of there, kind of more like the kind of friendly uncle.
He's like a dog who can speak.
Yeah. And Timon's the one who sort of takes parental responsibility. So no, it never comes across that way. And just speaking on the first film alone, no, I don't think it is. It never struck me as that. It's just sort of...
I hadn't considered it, though. It's yeah.
Are they gay icons?
Well, also, I guess the fact feeding into that is that Nathan Lane is voicing
of course,
Timon, and obviously he's gay in real life. So I think it's a reading that is there, whether it's intentional or not.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he put a bit of that into his performance, certainly. That's the kind of thing I could totally buy. Yeah.
Well, Timon and Pumbaa, we do get that they've been sort of shunned from their normal lives for some reason. We find out that Pumbaa, it's because he stinks.
Flatulent.
But we never get an explanation of why Timon has been shunned from home.
Well,
you know,
there was. I mean, we'll get basically a huge portion of the Lion King 3 is adapted from a cut verse from Hakuna Matata that was written and storyboarded. So yeah,
okay.
But we'll get into that in a bit, I suppose.
But there is an element of camp about Timon. Maybe that's what I meant when I was talking about the drag thing. Maybe that's what I was getting at, really. And yeah, Nathan Lane and his voice obviously gives that an element of that as well. But yeah, it's just a sort of funny camp character.
Maybe Pumbaa's gay. I can see Pumbaa like just being in love with Timon, and Timon just like too oblivious to pick up on it the whole time until the end, and then when Timon realizes he's in love with Pumbaa, he like makes it sound like it was his idea all along.
So the climax, specifically the fight between Simba and Scar's, a bit of a letdown, isn't it? When they tried to do that slow motion thing. Yeah. I guess it's just a lack of ideas for how to make a compelling fight, because it is two lions on a rock and they can't really do a whole lot.
It does feel like it's lacking a moment where, I don't know, where Timon's like Simba, over here, and like throws a branch of like on fire for him to catch. It feels like it's lacking something, and certainly that shot you mentioned specifically, that is just kind of like, ugh, this is like they've tried something with the animation, but they want to do slow motion, but they don't want to have to animate it frame by frame because it'd be painstaking, and so they do this horrible effect on it. And,
yeah. And then Simba just sort of wins and then spares Scar's life, but then of course he's gonna try and kill him anyway, so he feeds him to the hyenas. And then it starts raining because I guess the drought was a symbolism thing.
Yeah. It's because Simba's such a good leader, it started raining.
God knew that he is the true leader.
To be fair, his dad is in clouds, so...
Exactly, he's yeah.
It is, actually, that does make perfect sense. If his dad is controlling the clouds, then, yeah, he could make it stop raining. And make it stop.
So, anything else to add?
No, I mean, I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I think I'm on the record in our Beauty and the Beast episode as saying that that's my favourite of the feature Disney animated films. And I think it's actually this. I think this is just a stunning piece of work. Yeah, it's phenomenal.
I thought you were going to come on and be very lukewarm about The Lion King for whatever reason. I just thought you weren't going to be that bothered about it. No, that's interesting.
No, I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's phenomenal.
Well, I agree.
Piece of work.
I think it is Disney's finest work, and I say that as someone who thinks very highly of Disney's productions for the most part. Maybe I'd lean towards a couple of different films purely if I was trying to point to the best animation, as in the drawings that they've ever done. But other than that, yeah, it's just everything about it comes together beautifully. So I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 if we're rating it.
Whoa!
It gets a 10 out of 10 from me as well.
Whoa!
It did feel me left me a little bit cold. Like I said, I didn't feel emotionally connected. And things you've praised, such as the animation, we've been through this before. You guys really respond to animation. It never, I don't see the difference particularly, or maybe I do on some subliminal level, but I don't go, oh my god, that's amazing, that looks great. Also, the music, I never respond to music. So I think the things
you weren't allowed it in your house growing up, apparently.
I mean, generally, there's no music in a house. That's not a joke. But there was... I think the things that you're responding to are not things that I respond to. So this is perhaps a personal reflection on my score. But I gave it a pretty standard 7.
That's all right.
Like I said, I enjoyed it. It's perfectly entertaining.
Yeah, I thought you were going to give it a 6, so that's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, that's all right.
Right, so did you two watch a couple of the sequel films? There are 3, I believe. There's in 3 films, there are 2 sequels.
Yeah. I remember when The Lion King 2 Simba's Pride came out and not really understanding, what? They've made a sequel, but it's just going to video? It's not even going to be on in the cinema? What? I don't think I really got it as a kid. It was like, that's weird. Why would you do that? But I remember being really excited and watching it, and I think as a not particularly discerning little kid, I don't think I could really tell much of a difference. I obviously didn't like it as much as the real Lion King, but I think I was very happy to sit down and watch it. And
yeah, likewise. I think it was one of those in the series when Disney were big on churning out video releases of sequels.
I think I've seen almost all of Disney's straight-to-video sequels at this point, and they are predominantly awful. I think this is one of the very best of the bunch. This is one where they really tried and put some effort in. But it's their straight-to-video wing. It's not the same talent being called upon. And they fall into this trap repeatedly throughout all of these straight-to-video films where they just kind of end up doing... Well, maybe the characters from the first film are married and they've got kids, and then the kids do the exact same story. Yeah. Maybe that's what the film is.
I mean, I have to say, I haven't seen these sequels before, so this is my first time, and I was sort of pleasantly surprised in a way. Yeah, like you say, it held up pretty well. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed just general basic watch as much as I had the first one.
The animation is far better than these straight-to-video productions typically bothered with, so I think they really pulled out the stops to make it as good as they could here. It's obviously not as good as the Lion King, but it's not bad for a straight-to-video film. And the music, I think that's what really sets this one apart, is although Elton John didn't come back, Le Bohème did. And some of the songs written for The Lion King 2 are wonderful. I mean, to the point that I've seen the soundtrack to the upcoming remake, and they've just pinched one of the songs from Simba's Pride to put in the new film, because apparently, I think it was in the Broadway show as well, He Lives in You, which is the kind of new circle of life when they do that opening sequence again. And to be fair, it's an amazing song. He Lives in You. Brilliant.
I must say, I was watching this film and there was this action sequence, the music's on, and I was like, this is just Pirates of the Caribbean. And honestly, it genuinely took me a couple of seconds to go, oh yeah, of course, it's Saul's big thing. He always learn about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I genuinely thought that, so it was obviously like stuck out to me as well.
Yeah.
So the story basically in Simba's Pride is he's now the thing, he's got a little daughter. But what we're introduced to is that the fact that Scar apparently has this whole other family that he keeps, his side piece, which is completely new.
Well, lions did just go off fucking loads of lionesses, didn't they?
No.
Yeah, they do. That's
only in their, they have their
they
pride, they have their family thing, and that's it.
No, lions do what they want.
No, they don't.
Loads of lionesses.
Anyway, the point is he's apparently got this cub, which is like, the ages don't match up. Like, it would have had to be conceived after Scar had died. Doesn't really make sense. But then there's also this like throwaway line where it's like, oh, I know Scar's not his real father, but he took him in. It's like, oh, okay. So obviously he's going to end up getting together with Simba's thing. They just had to kind of go, well, let's not make it too incestuous, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's just have it. Oh yeah, it's just a totally different cub from somewhere else. We don't even know where. So
yeah. Good. That's good writing. That's just a quick little line to make it all right. Make it.
Why does he look like Scar then?
Because he molded him in his image, didn't he? Yeah. Lions all look the same for a start.
Racist.
And then he just gave him like a haircut to look like him.
Oh, speaking of haircut, I hate Simba's trendy 90s mane with his like curtains. That was annoying me.
All right.
Just like a knobhead. I don't like Simba. This is my problem with this film. Just a tosser.
Why?
I don't know.
You like Matthew Broderick as well.
I like Ferris Bueller. It's different.
So, what about if he turned up at the end of the film after the credits in a dressing gown and then... What? You're still here? Go on.
Be a bow.
That would be good actually. If when Nala first appears and they look at each other and he's like, "Nala, Simba, bow."
I would have liked this film a lot more. If you're gonna put in a fucking In the Heat of the Night reference, you may as well put that in. So yeah, in Simba's Pride, yeah, they grow up. It's all about the two of these like learning to sort of respect each other, these two sort of warring families, and Simba obviously the one who has to. It's done quite nicely. Like he's like shuns them and like, oh no, they're evil, and then he's like, oh well, I shouldn't blame him for the sins of the father, and then sort of working against him. So he's like, oh hang on, he was bad all along. I knew it. I knew I should never have trusted those dirty Scar pride from the wrong side of the tracks. And then they all learn to love each other at the end and all that. It works quite nicely. I think it makes sense. It's they're not. I tell you what, they're not too bad for, which sequels sometimes are. Is like hammering in your favourite characters. Because, you got Rafiki in there, you got Timon and Pumbaa, but it feels natural, it feels like they're in place and they're doing what they would be doing. So it felt balanced as a film rather than as fan service.
Yeah, and the new characters are largely not too trying. Andy Dick has a career best in this film, in that it's, I think, the only thing I've ever seen him in where he isn't distractingly annoying.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know it was Andy Dick until I saw his name in the credits, so that's saying something, I think.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it, that Rowan Atkinson presumably costs more than Matthew Broderick. And...
Well, it might just be that he wasn't available,
wasn't in LA.
Wasn't prepared to do it.
There's a bit of a gender-swapped remake vibe about this film, isn't there? It's kind of like Lady Simba versus Lady Scar.
Yeah. And that's nice. I think it works.
But I didn't really consider that until recently. I was like, oh yeah, that would be a thing now. The internet would get upset about it if this got made now.
Well, to be honest, it's like there's nothing in here that's like, well, you can't do that. You're a girl. There's none of that. It's always about her having to. Oh my God, I'm going to have to take on this responsibility. I'm not sure if I want that. Oh, hang on, but I want. And she has to stand up for what she believes in, all that. It's not the gender thing really doesn't come into it at all.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice, especially with lions. Considering.
Well, yeah,
how lionesses are the kind of the hunter gatherers, and the male lion just sort of sits on his arse all day until he's ready to do some humping. And yeah, it's the man's job is to fight the other male lions that come sniffing around.
Yeah. You know what's good? Like, going back to the music as well, the other songs, they are really good in this for a straight-to-video Disney sequel. You think about the songs we got in those Aladdin sequels. That We Are One song in this is like, if that had been in the first Lion King, it would be the weakest song in the film, but it wouldn't feel out of place, It fits. And My Lullaby is a decent little villain song. It's no Be Prepared, but it's respectable.
Yeah.
One of Us is great. The only
yeah.
one that really sticks out is a bit shit is Upendi. And I think that's largely just because they keep going, Upendi? It means love, doesn't it? I bet it means love. In Upendi, you're gonna fall in Upendi.
You can beat the bush like there's no tomorrow. From Tanganyika to Kilimanjaro, but you'll find Upendi wherever you are. Oh, underneath the sun.
Upendi, it means love, doesn't it?
Welcome to Upendi. In Upendi, the way the passion fruit grows sweet. And it's so divine that you lose your mind as it sweeps you off your feet. In Upendi.
That annoy you, Alan?
No, it was obviously just like, let's try and do another Hakuna Matata, and that's that.
Yeah, well, I think it's more another. I can't wait to be king. I just can't wait to be king. They do the whole like animation, bright colors. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It felt legitimate. Yeah, it didn't feel like it was knocked off. I think that's probably the thing. It felt like someone had put the effort in.
Yeah. Well, basically, I think the high quality of the music, the acting, the largely returning cast, the animation even, it goes a long way towards covering up what is quite a ultimately uninspired, not particularly great film. It's a really kind of mediocre film that's just got loads of stuff to like peppered around in it, and it ultimately comes out being one of the best Disney straight-to-video films they ever made, which isn't a very high bar, admittedly, but you could do a lot worse than this. I would give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I was very comfortable with this. I was happy with it. I gave it a 7.
Fair enough.
I don't think I can really rate it. It's been so long since I've seen it.
Fair enough. And then, quite a while later, and really, I would say substantially too late, they came back for a third film, The Lion King 1.5, later renamed The Lion King 3 Hakuna Matata, which is much less good a name. Which is the sort of Timon and Pumbaa movie, largely.
Timon and Pumbaa spin-off.
It saddens me that this film didn't exist when I was a kid, because I would have fucking loved it. A whole Timon and Pumbaa movie. genuinely, I think I would have been obsessed with this. I was so into their shitty little cartoon they had. Like, to actually have this with Nathan Lane and Timone's backstory and Marge Simpson.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, this is the first time I've ever seen this one when I just watched it today, in fact. I think it might be my favourite of the three.
Oh.
All right.
How controversial is that statement?
Well,
considering I wasn't that
you,
fussed about the first one.
For you, not that controversial, because I'm going to come out and say it. This is by a mile the best Disney straight-to-video sequel. Out of, like I say, I've seen, I think, all of them. There might be a couple of Tinkerbell movies I haven't seen, if they count, but...
And I mean, if I was gonna, if they said, right, you got 3 Lion King films, it's Sunday afternoon, you got to watch one of them, this would be the one I pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just as a kind of casual throwaway watch.
Like I say, I was so sad rewatching this because I would have loved this so much as a kid. Because I think as a kid this would have been my favourite of the 3 because I loved Timon so much. I think they were very smart in that they realised they had nothing to trade on with Lion King sequels apart from nostalgia. So they were like, fuck it, let's just do the first film again, but we'll kind of play around with it, have some fun.
Calvin, do you know what this film is?
I know that it's like a prequel or something. Is it like a midquel?
Well, what I'd been told, I guess, was it's the story in the middle of Lion King where Simba goes off with him and grows up, and then he comes back. So it's like that bit. But then when I actually watched it, that is a little bit of it, but not much. It's mostly Timon and Pumbaa's backstory and lead up to it, and then a kind of side story during.
Yeah, from their perspective. It really revels in showing you scenes from the Lion King from their point of view, and and they get a lot of mileage out of. There's a scene early on where they're trying to find a home to live in, and then they get woken up by this loud ruckus, and it's the I Just Can't Wait to Be King musical number taking place, and they're like, oh, we're in the theatre district, and he like whacks one of the hippos or something, and that's what caused them to fall over in the Lion King. It's that sort of thing.
Right.
They do the Can you feel the love tonight sequence, and it shows them trying to split Simba and Nala up, and
do they use
like
the song?
Yeah, and they keep going. They go into the song and come out of it. It's like really quite meta and funny, actually, how they kind of they're talking and then they just go into the and if he falls in love, just like out of conversation they were having. It's but yeah, it's like they set up traps and things to make when they fall over and tumble down the hill in The Lion King, like that was apparently because Timon and Pumbaa tripped them up with some string and things like that. It's
the framing device of the whole thing is Timon and Pumbaa in a cinema watching the film and talking about it, and occasionally cuts back to them in a kind of mystery science theatre thing going on, which is a weird sort of meta fourth wall breaking thing to do. But it works.
I think it's born out of they want to be able to rewind and skip ahead. They want to be able to jump around through the story, so they keep kind of picking up the remote control and saying, "Oh, I love this bit," or
we're not in this bit. Again. Let's jump forward.
Yeah. I think the idea is they're watching The Lion King, but it's a kind of magical remote control that lets you see stuff that isn't in The Lion King. It's kind of how it's played, but it works. It gets away with it. And the whole film, it's done with a real sense of fun and energy. It's real Saturday morning cartoon stuff, which arguably diminishes The Lion King to a different level. But I think that's fine for what this is, a straight-to-video nubbin. The animation is, again, really lovely for this sort of production. If only because it's all HD.
Is it computer animated or is it just HD?
I think it's digitally coloured in and that sort of stuff.
It just felt so much crisper. It was like
it's
difference.
HD. Yeah, it's just a different era of But that's it. It does look so crisp and vibrant when you watch it. One of the real weaknesses, I would say, is that there are a couple of musical numbers in this film, and they aren't very good. They are just pure Return of Jafar. Oh, we've got to put a song in here. The most blatant one is at the start of the film. Timon, you see him with all the meerkats, and they're doing a song about, was it Digatana? Some African word, presumably, that sounds like digging a tunnel, and they're all just going, "Oh yeah, digging."
Well, they're digging
hyenas.
tunnels. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
What was that? What was what? What was that? What was that? Where? What was that? Quick before the hyena comes.
Clear!
Dig-a-chana, dig-dig-a-chana. With a chun you dig a big-a-chana. Dig-a-chana, dig-dig-a-chana. Quick before the hyena comes. Dig-a-chana, dig-dig.
But it's just very going through the motions of a song, and then the film kind of forgets that it's a musical. It keeps going back into songs from the first film from other perspectives for a line and stuff, but I think there's only... Maybe it is just that Digatana, I don't know. Oh no, there is another one, because Timon has a shitty song up front as well about, like, his I Wish song. Oh, I can't wait to find a home and be out there. Yeah, it's not great. But ignoring that, it largely works very well. The cast, again, you've got predominantly returning voice cast from The Lion King, where, well, yeah, it's basically everyone, isn't it? I don't think you've got James Earl Jones or Rowan Atkinson in there, but
yeah,
everyone who came back for the previous one comes back for this one. I think Whoopi Goldberg and Cheech Marin might actually have more dialogue in this one than they did in the first Lion King. But then you've also got the addition of Jerry Stiller as Uncle Max, a kind
sort of mad uncle,
a dad figure for Timon.
Slightly,
and Julie Kavner as Timon's mum.
Look out to the horizon, past the trees, over the grasslands. Everything the light touches belongs to someone else.
Funny, I thought you were going a whole different direction with this.
What can I say? It's nature's design.
She's right. We're food for other animals. A movable feast, feared by no one and eaten by all.
But when they die, they become the grass. And we eat the grass, right?
Not exactly. We can't digest grass. We're grass intolerant.
But she talks. She just sounds like Marge. Oh, Timon.
It might be more accurate to say she sounds like Patty and Selma, or maybe Marge's mum, but it's all torn from the same cloth.
Yeah.
But it's a good performance. She brings a lot to it. Trading on nostalgia as much as they do is quite smart in that it lets them just rehash all the gorgeous music from the first film as well.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of the Hans Zimmer score in there. You've got like snippets from all the songs, little references to Be Prepared and stuff. And as I said before, the Timon stuff is based on a deleted verse from Hakuna Matata. There was originally a verse about Pumbaa when he was a young warthog, and a verse about Timon when I was a young meerkat.
It jumped out at me that wasn't in there when the first film. Like, why have they told Pumbaa's story and then not Timon's? It was
it is a quite jarring thing, and I think it's purely just pacing. And I get that, because Hakuna Matata would just be a bit sluggish with that extra verse, I think. But my understanding is it is just basically what we see at the start here, that he's clumsy and keeps wrecking the home when he tries to dig tunnels with everyone.
But I like that his character is sort of like, he doesn't fit in where he is, so he decides to go out into the world and sort of try and find his place. Yeah. I quite like that. And he does. He sort of finds himself and can still go back and sort of respect his home, and that's fine. But yeah, it's good.
So yeah, there's a fair bit of padding. It ultimately is just kind of like a Saturday morning cartoon, but I think it's a decent effort. And like I say, I think it's the best straight-to-video sequel Disney ever made. I'll stand by this one. And it's the only straight-to-video sequel I'll say is, legitimately good, but I will give it a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree with that. I give it a 7 out of 10.
But yeah, why are we talking about all these films, eh? Because they've only gone and... I mean, what have they done? Lord, what have they done?
Yeah. as is Disney procedure now, they've made what they like to refer to as a live-action remake, which in this case means entirely animated remake.
Well, I'm glad it's not just me who's been getting really hung up on this. I heard an interview with Billy Eichner, who voices Timon in the new thing recently, and even he was like, the guy interviewing him, it might be Mark Maron or someone, the guy interviewing him was like, oh, so it's like a live action thing? And he was kind of like, well, it's animated. Like, you can tell he wasn't comfortable saying it.
I wonder if they recorded any live action at all. Like, I'm wondering if, like, backgrounds or something.
Motion capture and stuff.
Well,
backgrounds and stuff.
I don't think they have. My understanding is it is completely, like, computer generated from the ground up. I think there might be some motion capture work in there, but I don't know about that.
It's really weird how, because they aren't outright calling it a live-action remake anymore, but it is sort of hushed. I mean, even on Wikipedia it says, is an upcoming American musical drama film. And I don't know why we're shying away from calling it an animated film, which is what it is.
Well, I heard Jon Favreau talk about it, and he said something to the effect of, well, you know, technically it's animated, but maybe we need a new word for these things because you don't want to mislead the audience and say it's animated and then they turn up for something that it isn't. And it was a bit like, oh, just say it's animated, like, for fuck's sake.
Well, I do understand where it's coming from there, but if anything, that's a disservice to the film. The fact that the stuff we've seen, the fact that that's animated, it is unfathomable. It's just amazing what they can do.
I mean, yeah, positives up front, I guess. Yeah. Astonishing visual accomplishment in terms of special effects. It looks like real life. It's fucking bizarre.
Yeah, but you lose so much character with it.
Well, I was gonna say, I don't know if that's gonna lead to a better film. I think the scene, let's point to where Mufasa dies, how much of that emotional gut punch comes from the emotive look of Simba, like the acting on that, like the way they've animated that character, and if he's suddenly a photorealistic lion, he hasn't got, his face can't move the way that it did in hand drawn, because they were able to draw them like people faces.
It's not just that they look realistic; it's they're behaving more realistic in terms of, yes, you've got to make them talk, but in terms of their facial movement stuff, you're not making them do cartoonish expressions or anything.
Yeah, and animals don't emote the way that humans do, so it's not. I think they're going to really struggle with it. Honestly, I'm not sure.
I'm going to struggle telling the characters apart. I mean,
I did think that as well. Yeah, they're going to have to give them very distinct sort of facial markings.
Yeah.
But based on what I've seen of the footage they've released, my first response was like, I can't believe this is actually animated. This is fantastic. But yeah, the footage we've seen does seem to be very much a like for like retread of the original film. So I'm not sure, like, what are they adding to it? What are they bringing to it? It is half an hour longer, so...
I think they're playing their cards close to their chest on that front, personally. A lot of people are very concerned it's just going to be practically shot for shot. I don't think it is. I think it's just when you market something like this, you are playing on pure nostalgia. You're saying, look at the couple of sequences that are shot for shot, which will be Circle of Life opening, maybe a big chunk of Hakuna Matata, maybe the Mufasa deaths. Like, there's going to be a few bits that are just doing the original film as it was because they're so iconic. But, you know, there's whole new characters in this film that aren't in the original film. And we don't quite know who Amy Sedaris is playing yet, but...
The other thing that concerns me from watching the trailer is you barely see anyone do any dialogue, actually, like, visually. And very little in the way of actual emotion. It feels like a trailer showing visual effects, showing a couple of actiony bits, and that makes me think maybe they're not that confident about how good this looks when the animals are talking, and maybe it looks a bit shit.
Well, I mean, I thought it looked great in the Jungle Book, and this is very much the spiritual successor to Jon Favreau's Jungle Book. It's the same aesthetic, largely. It's a lot of the same technology. It's the same director, obviously. So I think it'll be better than it was in the Jungle Book, and I remember it working just fine there. But you did have a human being to latch onto and give you some emotion, which I think was crucial. So But I mean, they have assembled an amazing cast. It has to be said.
Well, they've got James Earl Jones back as Mufasa.
Yeah, now that pisses me off because it's like if you're going to
Why
do
not
that,
get Nathan Lane
just
back
get
then?
Nathan Lane back as Timon for fuck's sake. On the other hand, we've really dodged a bullet because I mean, how close do you think we were to that being Liam Neeson?
Yeah,
everything the light touches, Simba. Go. If you touch my son, you dirty hyenas, I'll go and get a cash. And I'll walk the streets waiting for some hyena bastard.
Yeah. So James Earl Jones is back. He sounds considerably older because he is. He's in his 80s.
Jon Favreau has said that his lines are mostly exactly the same, which is... I mean, if that's the case, why not just use the original voice? It's odd.
Yeah.
So the name that I didn't know here actually was Billy Eichner as Timon.
Oh, I like
of all
Billy
the people
Eichner,
in
he's
here
good.
as the main guys. I don't know him from anything, and it's certainly not a name you're going to sell the film on.
Oh no, he is just
he's
a loud camp Jewish man. I mean, they've just done a very good job of kind of capturing the spiritual essence of who they cast originally. He's I think I know him from Parks and Recreation predominantly. He was added in one of the later seasons as a guest star, and I think they liked him so much that he just became one of the standard cast members. But his whole thing is he just loses temper for no reason and starts shouting in a really camp way.
All right, let me see what we're dealing with here.
It's a lion! Run for your life!
Wait, Timon, wait, Timon, wait! It's a little lion!
It gets bigger!
Can we keep him? Can we please keep him? Oh, okay. I promise. I'll walk him every day. If he makes a little mess, I'll clean it up.
You'll be his little mess. He's gonna eat you and then use my body as a toothpick.
But one day, when he's big and strong, he'll be on our side.
I don't get Seth Rogen as Pumbaa.
Do you know what? I think that makes perfect sense. More than most of these, I think. He's just kind of got that natural kind of Pumbaa-y voice. That's kind of how he talks. I
don't think he's got the sweetness to it. I think he's too gravelly and too
this
dry.
Is as much as
He's
I like
play
Billy
it as a
Eichner.
stoner though. It'll be all right.
Yeah, as much as I like Billy Eichner, yeah, I do think it's like on paper it makes perfect sense, but I don't know if it's going to quite. I don't know. In practice, I don't know. Chiwetel Ejiofor, is that how you say it?
Nobody
Scar?
knows how to pronounce it. It's been a mystery for 25 years.
I like him a lot, but again, is he Scar? Is he that charismatic? I just don't know if I'm happy with that.
It's an interesting one. Chiwetel is a fine actor and can do many things, so I've got a lot of faith in him. But
yeah,
it is if you're not going to do the Jeremy Irons voice, if you're not going to go the kind of slightly posh kind of I'm a villain kind of voice, you could go lots of different ways with it and still make it work. So let's see.
I get Christoph Waltz in there.
Yeah. George Sanders.
And then Werner Herzog is Mufasa, so you keep the make all the lions German.
Everything's better with Werner Herzog.
But that actually worked really well. Everything the light touches. You must never go over there. That is where just darkness abides. We have in the lead as Simba. I mean, it makes perfect sense on paper. Again, Donald Glover as Simba makes perfect sense. I'm not surprised for a second that that's what they went with. I've said it before on the show, I think, but I'm not sold on Donald Glover. And I say this as a huge fan of Community. I say this as someone who's watching and very much enjoying Atlanta. But him as an actor, like, he's fine.
Yeah.
But I tell you who is a slam dunk, and I couldn't think of anyone better, and it's probably a big part of why they made the film, frankly. Beyonce is Nala. Do you not think?
Does she at least sing a song? Can we assume that?
Of course, yeah, she's doing Can You Feel the Love Tonight? And I think they've probably added in a new song just for her, I imagine. They've added in at least one new song. Elton John and Tim Rice have come back for it, I think. So I'm quite excited for that. I think they said at one point "Be Prepared" was the only song not going to be in the film from the original movie, but it is on the soundtrack performed by Chiwetel, so maybe he's just done it for the soundtrack, for the end credits, maybe, who knows. And I haven't mentioned John Oliver as Zazu, which again is just like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Again,
but
someone
at the
else,
same time,
another person who I don't think particularly identifies as an actor. John Oliver. Really, I know he does
he
some,
acts. He was in Community with Donald Glover.
Yeah, exactly.
Reunion.
Wouldn't class that as acting as such. Comedy, yeah, but yeah, I mean, in terms of a vocal point of view, I think it'll work fine.
So yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to think about this film. Part of me is incredibly excited. Part of me is like, oh, it's going to be awful. Why have they done this? I think I'm going to go and see it and just think, what was the point in that? It's probably going to be like Aladdin.
Oh, it's going to be like all of them have been. I'm sure it's going to be a very competently made. I mean, they're not going to spend that amount of money on something that doesn't at least work, but I just...
I have a bit more faith this one might work, purely because I thought the Jungle Book, I thought Jon Favreau's Jungle Book was excellent. I thought it was a real reimagining of that film, rather than just a straight up,
I would like that
of it. And I'm really hoping this is going to be the same. But everything we've seen so far suggests it's a lot closer to the original film.
The trailers that I've seen have concerned me greatly. They don't show much though, so that might be them just playing it close. It might be because they know they've got a stinker and they're trying to hide it. So, guys, if you were going to put an idea up for a Lion King sequel, how would you do it?
I think the obvious route is playing on nostalgia, but I mean, what can you do? They're remaking it. You know, that's that done. They've done the Timon and Pumbaa side story.
Yeah, it's done, isn't it?
I know.
It's done.
But
walk away.
If I think let's imagine we were doing another straight to video Disney sequel, so it doesn't feel as high stakes. You can kind of piss about with it a bit more. I mean, I just want it. Let's just do another Timon and Pumbaa movie. Can't we do that?
It seems
just
like
further adventures of them.
Yeah.
Then they can just go off to space. They probably did in the cartoon. I mean, maybe not that, but you can do them going off and doing something completely separate.
Timon and Pumbaa in London. They get picked up by a hunter or something, but then escape in London.
Mel Gibson.
That's interesting, actually. It's something to kind of set the time, because in the first film anyway, we have no idea what year it is or anything. There's no sign of humans or technology.
It's true.
Well, it's post-apocalyptic. Humanity was wiped out in the war.
We just have the whole cast caught by poachers, and then they get taken to London and
Victorian London
back to Kenya. Yeah, Victorian London, yeah, brilliant. That's brilliant.
Someone
Simba's put in a pit.
collected in a sort of a big country house menagerie.
Well, yeah, you can bring in everyone from Tarzan if you'd want to. For some reason, you probably wouldn't want to bother.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah. Why not?
They're that era, aren't they?
Yeah.
Simple, but I think that's the only way you could really go with this and make it work at this point.
You need to get them out of the savannah.
What about if Timon and Pumbaa get caught by, or whoever, but Timon and Pumbaa are the best characters. Timon and Pumbaa get caught by a hunter or whatever and get shipped over to like 1950s Hollywood, where the Disney Corporation are using them so the animators can try and animate accurate animal movements. So they've got them running on a treadmill and stuff so that they can start like try and...
Yeah. Well, if we're doing this, we need to set it when Walt himself's still alive, definitely.
Yeah,
he was
played
still
by
going
Tom
in the
Hanks.
50s, wasn't he? Yeah.
What about all those Disney films where they'd throw animals off a cliff and go, look how the animals jump off the cliff? Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed the show, then please remember that everybody else likes The Lion King too. This is the perfect episode to share with your film-watching friends and help spread the love for the podcast. If you're a fan of what we do, then please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/dimreturns. For just $1 a month, you get access to all the extra material we put up, including reviews of new releases such as the remake of The Lion King. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.